Hi, welcome to Politics for People Who Hate Politics. I've long ago lost track of what episode we're on, but I don't think that really matters. Today I have some fun guests. I have part of what was once my regular panel before I became a flaky person who had to make money. And I have some new people and, well, all right, let's introduce them. We have Joe, who is my brother and is in a band, which he never describes on the internet, and I think he should brag about a lot more. We have Michelle Montalvo, who is, as her lower third says, no longer an intern, which is an important thing to no longer be. We have my headphones being crappy. And we have Jordan Bloom, who is the opinions editor for the Daily Caller and has a blog that I can't pronounce the name of and never will be able to. Never. And our first virgin guest, no offense, Todd, Todd Seedy, who writes things and lives in New York and is pretty awesome. Though I like to yell at him about some of his opinions sometimes, but hopefully he doesn't take it personally. Welcome, panel. I think I've forgotten how to do this, but not really, because this is going to be fun. Okay. What are we going to talk about first? I have a list of things.
You're the boss, Lucy. You tell us.
Yeah, I know. You're the worst co-host ever, Joe. It's true.
Opinionating on it.
All right. I want to talk about the Nobel Peace Prize and how they gave it to, Malala Yousafzai. Oh, God, I hope that's right, because that would be really
not.
That's terrible. No? Okay.
White privilege, Lucy.
Pronouncing things is hard, Joe. Okay. The Nobel Peace Prize I feel like for once they gave it to somebody who they should give it to, which is like a well-intentioned person who has struggled in a foreign land. And admittedly, she at least, told Obama that drones are probably bad and are probably making more terrorists. So she's not like sort of a default feel-good kind of figure. Also, getting shot by the Taliban is pretty legit, and surviving it is even better. Joe, is the Nobel Peace Prize super dumb considering that a man who has technically killed several hundred Middle Eastern children got it several years before a Middle Eastern teenager did?
Yeah, it's pretty much a joke. I mean, we had Obama in 2009. In 2007, we had Al Gore win it, along with the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. And
oh, yeah, that used to be the joke about it, yeah.
Right.
Al Gore.
We moved on to insulting Obama, but the European Union won it in 2012. It's just, I mean,
wait, really?
It has.
That's not. That can't. Wait, really?
Yeah.
How can the European? I don't even understand how that works.
Henry Kissinger and Yasser Arafat have been winners, and a century ago, Teddy Roosevelt and Woodrow Wilson were winners as well.
Yeah.
So basically, it's an exception when it makes any semblance of sense.
It's been a joke for 100 years, so I mean. Does anyone really care anymore about who wins it? It doesn't seem to have quite the cachet that it used to.
I feel like yes and no. I mean, like I am perpetuating its being a thing by talking about it, but like it appears in the headlines and people talk about it, and it's still annoying. So I don't know. It's bad. It's bad. So. We could talk about new things because I feel like we're all pretty sure that it's a bad prize. Is Ebola going to kill us all? Joe, you're going to be my co-host. You're going to be my productive co-host, whether you like it or not. Every time I look at Drudge Report, I feel actually really at ease because I figure that if Drudge is overhyping something, we're not all going to die of Ebola. That may be my contrarian nature, though.
I think my former coworkers at the American Council on Science and Health might have the right attitude, which is that panic is never a good thing. However, it's a safe bet the government will handle it badly. So the current plan appears to be to screen at 5 major airports, but they're going to mainly screen for people with high fevers. If they're not yet symptomatic with Ebola, this won't accomplish anything. But it will mean the sequestering for long periods of lots and lots of people with the flu or bad allergies and so forth. So Of course, don't panic, and keep washing your hands, and don't expect the world to be filled with killer zombies. But I wouldn't be shocked if it all goes to hell very quickly and the government has no competent response.
I've seen
It's now
outbreaks too many
something
times.
you can't talk about on a plane. I didn't read the article, but yeah, there was a man on an outgoing Philly flight who was taken off the plane after sneezing and making an Ebola joke. So
Airports are not a place, or planes just never joke about anything. Like anything. That's just
They're terrible
clearly that's the
places.
rule of life now.
Yeah.
Oh dear.
It is interesting to me that the thing that sort of put Ebola on the map in popular consciousness was almost exactly 20 years ago when the book The Hot Zone came out. And that got lots of praise from mainstream press across the political spectrum, and basically made it sound like if there are a few cases in major metropolitan Western cities, it's the end of the world. 20 years later, people don't seem to be as panicked as they were then, and I suppose it's mainly because the statistics back then, based mostly on 1970s outbreaks when it was first discovered, suggested that the death rate would be 90% amongst people who contracted the virus.
I thought there was a strain where it was higher than it's been, but maybe that's why I think that.
There are 4 different types, right? That's what they've been talking about, but the one that seems to be spreading is kind of virulent. But I was talking to one of my colleagues 2 nights ago, and it was, he sort of jokingly offered the theory that Ebola is sort of retribution for a nation that doesn't ever wash its hands. And I pointed out to him that, there's a significant difference between a nation that doesn't wash its hands and a nation that doesn't use toilet paper, and that's sort of the distinction in how, it might spread here versus West Africa.
So this is for all the OCD people just to cry about forever. And myself being semi-included in that. God, where's my hand sanitizer?
This is all the more reason to feel proud.
I guess
You're a mark of a superior civilization.
American exceptionalism, finally, it is actually a thing. Oh, we're being, I don't know.
And we've got vaccines to worry about, too, people...
And all the autism that results.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Right? I've read the internet. I've seen the internet.
Yeah.
With improved treatment, it looks like the death rate, even amongst the pockets in Africa, is down to 50%. So we're getting better at treating it, which could make a big difference. It was like 90% amongst those first people who contracted it in the 70s, but we're getting a little better at giving people fluids and so forth.
It's been kind of, I don't know, it hasn't been, it's spreading fast enough to kind of keep the news cycle, which is, I don't know, kind of a, well, I guess it kind of has with the Dallas patient and everything, but it seems like the way we talk about Ebola is moving a lot faster with like the Ebola Chan thing, and there was that story that I saw picked up in places I didn't see it, that I didn't expect to see it. It was, supposedly the CDC said that the virus that they were working on only worked for white people. And of course, like that's a very the racial politics of Ebola are kind of horrifying, right? How the Ebola Chan jumped from U.S. message boards to Nigerian ones, and how exactly that happened. Whether it was an earnest Nigerian person picking up on it, or someone
I missed all that. Can you explain the?
Yeah. So Ebola Chan being it's a meme that's a little anime chick, but an avatar of death and pestilence. So she's got pigtails and like a lab coat, and at the end of the pigtails are these spirals that look like the virus, and so it started on 4chan of people posting these pictures of the Ebola avatar and saying, if you don't say I love you Ebola Chan, you're going to get Ebola, and so naturally once this jumped from American message, or I guess English speaking message boards, Nigeria is English speaking too, but actual West African image boards. It became clear that, it started to look like there was some sort of occult, witch doctory going on of, Westerners hoping that Ebola would eliminate the black people. In other words, so Ebola is taking place with, in the context of what Nick Land has called an occult race war, and that's, obviously it's already impeded our ability to fight the virus in certain cases.
Well, I mean, there was those aid workers who got slaughtered by basically panic mobs a couple weeks ago. And if Jesse Walker were here, he would talk about, like, even in America, the basis of the paranoia that doctors are gonna, either mess with or not treat black people, and there's all the unfortunate like historical basis for that kind of fear, even though it's obviously not real. But yeah, that's not good.
Wasn't sorry, I was going to talk about Naomi Wolf for a second.
Don't ever do that again.
Oh,
Never interrupt me to talk about Naomi Wolf.
That story was so great. Wait, Joe, you tell the story.
Well,
Tell the tale, Joe. Go
I'll
on.
have to. I don't exactly remember what she said about Ebola, but I mean, she came out with this ridiculous conspiratorial.
But the government's letting in deliberately.
Letting it in.
Yeah, it was kind of incomprehensible, if I recall. It was like, it was very crazy person on the internet-y, if I recall.
I mean, it was insane because she tied it into with like ISIS and like.
Yeah, that's right.
Question the authenticity of ISIS beheading videos.
Yeah.
Staged, and then she the next day she came out with suggesting the U.S. was sending troops to West Africa, not to assist with Ebola, but to bring Ebola back to the U.S. to justify a military takeover of America.
Do they need to send troops? Can they be more subtle about it if they were going to fetch Ebola?
I mean,
it's. They don't need, like, no?
I don't know how she came up with these things like back to back. Like she must have been.
She might just be reading libertarian conspiracy theorist Alex Jones's website. I've noticed one slightly confusing thing about his site, which I like to look at just for amusement once in a while, is that sometimes the conspiracy theories seem to contradict each other.
That's always fun, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So the government is simultaneously doing nothing to prevent Ebola. It's exaggerating the threat of Ebola, and it's also working to spread Ebola, I think, all at the same time. And it's hard to keep track, but something terrible is going on, apparently.
Well, and I think in the case of the ISIS videos, what was setting off a lot of the conspiracy theorists is that one of the first sources for the place where these videos came out was a rapid response media monitoring firm just outside of D.C., but normally sort of a pro-Israel outfit, like politically rapid response, anti-Islam, pro-Israel sort of narrative. That's the narrative, and so the suspicion obviously came from the anti-Israel conspiratorial crowd that they cooked this up, they doctored the video or whatever. Of course, it's complete nonsense, but that's basically what Naomi Wolf was saying.
But Jordan, I thought you were the anti-Israel conspiracy theorist crowd. I mean, I've read the Washington Free Beacon.
Right.
Voluntarily, for some reason.
Goldfarb is a foreign agent. That's not a conspiracy.
Wolf also said, tying into her back-to-back conspiracies, her third big conspiracy was that the Scottish independence referendum had been faked too. So, where she got all three of those at the same time.
Yeah, and you kind of heard that from Ron Paul too. Ron Paul sort of obliquely suggested that the Scottish referendum had been a little bit rigged. And I'd be curious what you guys think about this. I'd be curious what you guys think about this. I ran a piece from Don Rasmussen, who is a former aide to Ron Paul for a long time, and he wrote this piece for me this week about basically saying that Ron Paul has to do what Marine Le Pen did and disavow his father, because
fuck that. Ron Paul's way better than Rand Paul.
But
yeah, I said it.
That's not part of the calculation from Rand's perspective, and Ron still, at least from comments like this on the Scottish referendum, has still manifested a willingness to indulge these people.
Oh yeah, no, that's true. It's annoying.
Rand.
Yeah, and I think pragmatically, I assume it would probably help Rand Paul get somewhere in life to distance himself from his dad more.
Yep.
Getting like the 10 Scott Hortons of the world who hate Rand Paul but love Ron Paul to vote for you is probably not how you win, the White House. So that's probably true, but it's still a bummer.
I would strongly encourage Rand Paul to just sort of chuckle condescendingly if people ask him about his dad and say, well, I'm not going to insult my father.
Right, I mean, he should have, if he wants to be that pragmatic, he should have like a line where he doesn't diss his dad, but tries to sort of, let's not talk about him, I'm my own candidate, etc.
Right, he needs to be
without being forced to trash him. I mean, this is brutally pragmatic politics, and I hate it all, and Ron Paul is better, but also, yeah.
Ron Paul is a crazy conspiracy theorist, though. You can't deny that. And if you don't believe that, look at what he sounded like before his presidential campaigns in 2008 and 2012. I mean, there are long videos of him going on about how the Trilateral Commission secretly runs the world. He was not subtle about it until he had to be in recent years, and Rand Paul should distance himself from all of that. That's just true. It's not just pragmatic politics.
Well, no, I mean, it is just pragmatic politics because we're talking about whether we want Rand Paul to win, and obviously Rand Paul wants to win if he plans to run. But Stevie, I care about war a lot more than you do, which is why I yell at you all the time, even though I like you.
Well,
So,
but as a person who cares about war, doesn't that, mean you have even more at stake, making sure that anti-war views are presented in a way that's kind of palatable and sane?
yes. But at the same time, the pickings are so goddamn slim that I'm not going to toss out the Ron Paul with the Bilderberg or what have you, because, you can't.
Fair enough.
My people at antiwar.com, especially Justin Raimondo, who, he writes shit that I disagree with often. I certainly disagree with him on immigration and other stuff that I also care about, but I also like that antiwar.com exists. There's really, I was having a little chat with Angela Keaton from Anti-War on Twitter today about this, and I was just with her palpable frustration about this, and it's like the pickings are just so slim when it comes to anti-war stuff. And I would still rather stand against Ron Paul and his conspiracy theories than with somebody like Medea Benjamin or people who are really anti-war and then want to go hug a dictator. I mean, I don't know.
It's slim pickings out there. You just kind of gotta. You really have to be a little.
That's kind of a false choice. That really is a false choice, though, because there is a cadre of intellectuals in the Republican Party that do offer an alternative to what we've got right now, to the neocons, and Rand Paul has just started to cozy up with these people. And the neocons are obviously super nervous about it. I think
what people? I mean, never assume we're as smart as you are, dude, because it just provokes blinking.
Well, I'm talking about like your Brent Scowcroft types, the people with respectable pedigrees, and the actual ability to formulate, say, a grand strategy for someone like Rand Paul.
Okay.
And, they're going to be nervous of him as long as he maintains his association with his father.
Well, it would help if I knew who that was.
You really gotta get into
down. Dumb it down, will you?
Well, so the Free Beacon had a story. It was a couple of weeks ago. It was about the publisher of the National Interest, which is sort of the realist foreign policy journal in D.C. And it was about Dimitri Simes. Did I mention that? Did we talk about this last time?
I don't know, dude.
Okay. Well, anyway. So Alana Goodman, she wrote the story, and it was attacking Dimitri Simes, the publisher of the magazine, and this is Richard Nixon's hand-picked foreign policy heir, for basically being a Russian simp. And he's advising Rand Paul, so it's a big deal, obviously, that Rand Paul is being advised by a Russian simp. And but I took that story to mean, the moment I saw it, is that Rand Paul is making common cause with the realists, and the neocons are going to do whatever they can to make sure that doesn't happen, or to fuck that up, or whatever they can do to, mess it up. And I don't know. I think that alliance is a more hopeful thing than, whether or not we ought to, keep the cranks in the building or not.
And to just give Lucy a footnote to what Jordan was saying, Brent Scowcroft would be taken seriously most likely because he served in important policy positions under 4 Republican presidents, including that being National Security Advisor to 2, including Bush 1. So it wouldn't just be Rand Paul and a bunch of ignored cranks. It would be a reminder that he speaks to the mainstream.
But I mean, what is a foreign policy realist? I don't know exactly what that means in some objective way. I just wrote a thing about how Obama is sort of better on foreign policy than Bush, because Bush being a high water mark of completely fucking awful, slaughtering lots of people in the Middle East, blood on his hands kind of a way. So Obama isn't as bad as Bush, so shouldn't I be skipping around celebrating that he's not as bad as Bush? I don't know what... I don't want to make the perfect be the enemy of the good, as my father has incessantly drummed into my head since I was a child, but I don't want less dead people because of America. I would like none. I don't know.
Well, here's the case. So I have serious doubts that non-interventionism is saleable to the American people. I mean, Rand Paul is one terrorist attack away from political oblivion. the American people want shows of force. What the realist lend is sort of a realistic understanding of power relations as opposed to an ideological one. That's at least what they claim to offer. And I think that's, a more sane and palatable thing than we've got today in the Republican Party.
Well, most things would be, I suppose.
But intervention isn't just, it's never going to motivate people. We're not going to, go marching over the barricades like some anti-Vietnam protest into the White House. It's just not. That's not.
Oh, I wanna.
And, by the way, Lucy, I don't know if we can whittle down the war debate to a mere like 3 sentences, but just to put it in the clearest, starkest terms, would you ideally like to have a pacifist in the White House who tells the world, we will never fight a war no matter what horrible things you do to us or to others?
I don't know that saying it that baldly is necessarily productive. No, I'll agree with that. Of course, I don't know about, maybe I want to burn the White House down. Maybe. I don't know.
It doesn't sound to me like Rand...
Depends on how pragmatic I feel.
Doesn't sound to me like Rand Paul has world conquest plans. It just sounds like he wants to let the world continue to think we retain military options. That's all, which is probably a good idea.
Well, retaining military options and doing nothing about that is certainly an improvement over the past century. So, yeah. I honestly think that Rand Paul would probably be a significant improvement over most presidents of, the past, again, century. But that doesn't mean I don't worry about, turning into one of those earnest Obama people circa 2008 who was so excited for their guy to win and then being like, oh, wait, the real world and politics is horrible, etc. So I don't know. But, I noticed...
Just give it up, Lucy. Stop trying.
Joe, you're just here to bring us all down, Joe, in just a really non-specific sort of way. Just everything's terrible, right, Joe?
I'm a nihilist.
You are not, Joe. Like Rand Paul, again, I was kind of going to bring him up anyway, and then it just happened, so that's good. Rand Paul went down to Ferguson yesterday, and he was down there today trying to be the Republican who cares about black people and prisons and the unfortunate correlation. So like today I feel like all libertarians should be excited about Rand Paul, but presumably next week he's going to do something and everyone's going to hate him again. And that's kind of like the new circle of life. So
he's got such a balancing act to pull though with the different, interests in the Republican Party. He's got to appeal to everyone if he, if he even has a small chance of getting the nomination, he's got to appeal to the actual conservatives who are going to vote in the primaries, and then he's going to probably have to spin it a little bit towards the middle to win, a general election. So he's in a tough place, I think. But I think it's good that he still seems to be doing more good things than bad things, and at least he recognizes that, black people have been, unjustly kind of targeted by the police, and he's not ignoring them or kind of playing to the white supremacist Southern strategy kind of stuff.
Like his pa did.
Right. His pa and pretty much everyone else in the Conservative Party. So, he's good. I like him. I like him more than anyone else.
He got something like a quarter of black voters in his Senate when he was voted into the Senate, which is sadly something like 5 times as many.
I was going to say that sounds like a lot, unfortunately. Yeah.
Yeah. By Republican standards, that's astonishing. So I think he's already proving his ability to cobble together an unusual coalition. And after all, every winning president is going to have to cobble together some sort of national coalition out of different factions. It'd be really nice to have the basic template be a libertarian one for a change, and looks like he's doing that.
Yeah, he's like going down to Ferguson today and talking with NAACP people and all that sort of thing. It's a type of pandering and like a political move, but it's the kind that can result in people actually being helped. It's not purely like pounding the pulpit about this cause and that. He's actually pushing on an issue that has been, the worst domestic policy decision since segregation, I would argue. Like, he's not just, he's not pandering when it's convenient. The fact that he's actually pushing on criminal justice reform more than he ever needs to makes me like him when he's disappointed me in all other areas. And he's never.
See you guys later.
Bye, Jordan.
Right.
He said he had to do something at 6:30. It's 6:12. Damn it.
That was so sudden.
I mean, I don't think he's just like playing. Like he doesn't seem to be just like Jesse Jackson, Al Sharpton, where it's just like, oh, this is kind of. I know I have to talk about this to get the, the
right. The black leaders. He's more down on the war on drugs and prison than
more than
all of those people. Yeah.
Or Obama ever was. I mean, Obama. He never. I guess he.
Dude, Obama's following his lead.
But he's
like. They're following him. They're following like the winds blowing and making it acceptable to talk about this. Like,
right. Rand Paul said more in the past 2 months than Obama ever had, and Obama was supposed to be, you'd think at least he would try and advance, some of the things that might actually help out black people in America instead of continuing federal raids on marijuana and all the other, stuff that he's doing. That's, he could actually be doing good. In this is the kind of thing where, some of the liberals and even libertarians maybe thought back in the day that, well, at least Obama will be good on this kind of stuff.
Well, him and Holder have improved on drug stuff lately. Like, they took their sweet time. They absolutely followed once it was more acceptable to do this. They followed Washington State and Colorado legalizing it. They when it was okay to push a little and to suggest like DOJ guidelines about prosecution without it being any substantial change, like then when they were good and ready, when all their political capital had been spent on other things like running guns to Mexico and giving us some sort of crappy corporate hybrid healthcare, then it was time to cover all the people in jail. So
right, the same with like gay marriage. After everyone else decided it was okay, then Obama kind of sneaks in and is like, oh yeah,
right.
Good.
Biden made him like, and meanwhile on election day, I still saw like, I literally can't remember LGBT right now. For Obama type signs, and poor Gary Johnson was running as a Republican and saying he was for gay marriage, and everyone was like, Obama and gay people, yay! It was really annoying.
Much as I might risk being called exploitative by the left when I say this, those Fergusonians, bless them, really do offer a great teaching opportunity for libertarians in that you can condemn everything from violent rioters and cigar theft to murderous police and the Department of Homeland Security while reaching out to new constituents at the same time. It really is a wonderful opportunity to teach people force is bad across the board. I think we should go for it.
Also, and now all the dead people and police brutality is bad, and so is rioting.
And Rand Paul's right in the middle of it.
Tail to the end of that, though you were wrong.
Right. And Rand Paul's going to condemn all the bad things, and it'll be great, and people will love him forever.
I mean, even though he's been less, like, significantly quality on foreign stuff as he has been on criminal justice, goddamn, that drone filibuster, just shamelessly excited about a political thing happening, wished I was in D.C., the most embarrassingly non-anarchistic moment where I was just like, oh, yes! Politics. Like if politics was always like that, I would pay close attention and it would be awful. So.
If he's anti-drone, the next thing he has to do is reach out to Malala, there, the Nobel Prize winner.
Yep, coming together. He's backpedaled a little on some of that foreign stuff.
Pander to everyone. Just pander. Lip
Joe,
service.
Do I have glaucoma or are you blurry?
I don't know. I might have been blurry for saying
so. There you go.
I only have one light.
All right. Even though Jordan went away, you guys, I don't know. All right. I guess it's my job to be pretend Jordan right now. And I want to talk a little bit about Ayn Rand, not because there's anything particularly news topical about that, but because I was entertained by Jordan's blog post where he trashed her. And I don't know if you guys read that. I bet you probably didn't, though I
did.
Joe!
But
Good boy.
I never read The Fountainhead. I've never read Atlas Shrugged.
Neither have I.
I've never read a sentence of Ayn Rand. The only thing I know about Ayn Rand is that Rush wrote a bunch of songs inspired by her, and they were pretty good. And I know most of them on the bass. So, if you guys want to listen to a bass solo of Anthem or Something for Nothing or 2112, I can do that. But I cannot. I literally cannot talk about Ayn Rand. I have nothing to say about her.
I've read Fountainhead and Atlas Shrugged, and I guess my only complaint about Ayn Rand really is that she buys into the communist narrative too much. In that the communists basically say, if you don't like big government, it must mean you're a selfish egomaniac, to which she says, yes, exactly. Whereas I would think our best selling point would be convincing people like, no, there are huge utilitarian benefits to everyone from getting rid of the state, and furthermore, the basis of commerce is mutually beneficial exchange. It's always like an act of love when you trade with people, not selfish nastiness. So I think in a way she does herself a disservice by denouncing altruism and calling her book Virtue of Selfishness, even though I fully understand.
That's a good title.
She's reacting to the trauma of growing up in the Soviet Union and dealing with all of these people who think altruism and socialism do go hand in hand. So I can't blame her, and I think she's better than 98% of the political activists and philosophers out there. But still sounds a little bit more like a sociopath than she had to.
That's a great summation.
I feel like she had a little like Ann Coulter in her, where she's just she's reveling in like the
by far.
That's what I've gotten from being in the libertarian circles and hearing about her and reading quotes from her. She kind of just like, yeah, exactly. I'm gonna just kind of play up that kind of, they call me a monster, so that's what I am,
So almost as if she lacks nuance, which seems like a pretty basic thing to get from.
But I mean, that's kind of a good way to build up your legacy too. If you kind of act larger than life and kind of, take the criticisms and kind of run with them. That's kind of a way to, bolster your legend, I guess.
And even though I'm not an objectivist, I'll defend Atlas Shrugged as literature. In fact, I think if people had thought about it as a Russian novel, since, of course, again, she grew up in Russia, they would probably find it much more acceptable. I mean,
they would stop dissing the length of it. Yeah, totally. That's a good point.
They talk about 2 or 3 larger-than-life characters who seem cartoonish and superhero-like, but it's filled with dozens and dozens of characters, and most of them are actually fairly nuanced and morally flawed. They're not just these cartoon cutouts. And I think a lot of people, if they've even actually read the novel, which even Joe hasn't, no, that's okay. But if they've read it, I think they often misremember it as a novel where anyone associated with the government is evil and every businessman is good. But in fact, virtually all the characters, I mean, just numerically speaking, in the cast are corrupt businessmen. They're crony capitalists. And in fact, I guess I read that novel twice. I read it once in 1989 when the Soviet Union was collapsing, and so I thought,
that's a good celebration. I approve of that.
This book may be capturing reality. But I read it again in 2009 and actually thought, oh my gosh, this captures the current moment even better, because the villains are not Soviets. They are crony capitalists who are constantly talking as if they like commerce, but then getting subsidies and regulations in their favor. And if you're going to depict something as big and complicated as 1,000 pages worth of bad business subsidies and inept economic policies, I think she managed to do that with a surprising amount of passion. I'd like to see some other writer try to pull off something that big without it seeming a little stiff and cartoonish.
Well, now I'm going to have to read it, all right?
I have read the first 30 pages of Atlas Shrugged twice, and I stopped because I was really bored. I
just recommend, like, We the Living or Anthem. Anthem is one of my favorites. And I'm not an Ayn Rand fan, or like some people are. And it is unfortunate that Atlas Shrugged has that kind of negative, view, at least in the mainstream, because it has a lot to offer.
So you haven't, in fact, read it, Michelle?
No, I did what you did, kind of skimmed through it, and I'm like, this is good.
I'm going to watch the movie.
No,
didn't need to do that.
No, don't watch the movies.
No.
The movies are terrible.
I've read the reviews. That's
Like,
interesting.
We probably all know people who were involved in the production of those three
totally.
little
Except for
films. So
Joe.
I
But I
feel
totally
guilty saying it, but yeah, they were awful.
What the hell were they thinking? I'll say it.
changing the cast each time is just so awkward. I mean,
It's like Doctor Who.
it is. You know what? It is better that they did it each time. I guess there is sort of a more logic to that. Yeah, if we just
Dagny
made it.
Taggart can regenerate. She may be a Time Lord.
That's true. Actually, that already helps. That already makes me feel more okay with watching it.
Don't watch it. Don't watch it though. No.
Okay, I won't do that. I won't.
For the love of God.
I mean, I've always thought, and it's like, in some ways, in response to, speaking of being reactionary and lacking nuance, in response to salon-style criticisms that say, oh, libertarians, Ayn Rand, like, I should love Ayn Rand. I wish that I did, just to spite them. But unfortunately, to me, Ayn Rand, from what I've read, which is Anthem and some shorter stuff, and her weird hatred of libertarianism, to me, she's this fake-ass, metaphysical, unprovable, unsubtle version of libertarianism, and then she complained about libertarians stealing her thing, because the 19th century obviously didn't exist. Like, I don't quite get why it's this new thing instead of just a sillier version of our thing. Not to be collectivist.
I guess
I don't know.
There are a lot of quasi-cult leaders out there who like to make it sound like they invented whatever ideas they're pushing, right? I mean, like, even Jesus was not the first person to say everyone should be nice to each other, but, sort of helps promote the cult if you act like you're the only person who ever had that thought. And Rand obviously had a bit of the narcissistic tendency to think she pulled herself up completely by her own bootstraps, not just economically, but philosophically, and owes a debt to no one except Aristotle, as she sometimes put it, which is ridiculous. In fact, I think she sounds a lot like philosopher Immanuel Kant at times, which is ironic since she thought Kant was the most evil philosopher in all of history and was the one responsible for screwing up the modern world. But I don't know, he wanted a global free market order and believed that everyone should be treated as an autonomous unit that it had a purpose unto himself and not as a means to others' ends. It sounds like Ayn Rand to me.
Maybe she thought Kant ripped her off. I mean, if libertarians ripped her off, and they
Via time travel.
long before, yeah.
She was good at self-promoting, Lucy, right? Unlike you.
Yeah, shut up. I like to channel all my vitriol towards Leonard Peikoff because he, is alive, and usually the lackeys are worse than the originator. I mean, I went to a school whose only claim to fame is that Rachel Carson went there. And as annoying as she is and how she gave us all malaria, like the people who ran with her idea and were like, let's ban DDT as soon as we ban yellow fever from America and all the Americans are safe, fuck you, Africa. It's usually the followers who are worse in a lot of ways. But I've read some really, really unpleasant quotes about foreign policy. Sorry to harp on that, Todd, but dead people bums me out.
At the same time, I wouldn't say that foreign policy is clearly a central plank of objectivism. So I'm sure you'll find objectivists who are all over the map on foreign policy. And also, while there may be some dumb fanatical followers of Rand, she's also inspired some good political writers and even actual philosophy professors who've added a lot of the nuance that she didn't get around to putting in, so to speak.
And some musicians, too.
Yes.
I mean, a sprinkling of objectivism, like inspiring libertarians and ANCAPs and stuff, that some of my favorite people have, like, they were influenced by Rand to some extent. They're just not Leonard Peikoff about it, who, again, made Bill O'Reilly sound like a dove in that one interview. So, like, he's a bad man, and I hate him. And I don't want him in my tent. I don't. I want him to go away.
As long as it's your tent, you can exclude whoever you want.
That's true. God, I love libertarianism. I love it. All right. Well, we can't have Jordan defend his hilarious mocking of Rand. I've decided he's the only person who's allowed to mock Rand.
How would you summarize his objections?
Well, the comparison having... Let's see. What do I actually know about these things? I read an evangelical blog that was criticizing the insanity of the Left Behind series, about how God takes away the good people and leaves everyone else behind to have a bad time. So I kind of know how those books work, and then there's that new movie. Yes, with Nicolas Cage, which doesn't sound as hilariously terrible as I'd hoped. But basically, the comparison between like Left Behind and Atlas Shrugged, where like the good people are gonna leave everybody else behind because fuck you, you didn't listen, you didn't see, and that seems like a reasonable comparison. I mean, Joe style guessing without having actually read the damn things.
It's like the Church of the Subgenius saying that on X day, all the people who are in the church will get carried away by the mothership of the alien sex goddesses, and everyone else will be left on Earth to suffer.
Have they said that?
Yeah.
Have they set a date for that?
Yeah, the date was with certainty 1998, and now they continue to push that idea and just say that the date may have been slightly off, but they're joking.
Well, yeah, I do like the Church of the Subgenius.
I believe they recently said the date may have been upside down, and that it might actually be the year 8661 that the aliens will show up.
Most people should try that as an excuse. Oh, we flipped it. My bad. It's actually infinity.
Prophecy is tricky.
It's rough. Well, you know what? Maybe when I post this podcast, I'll link to Jordan's thing, because I can't fully encapsulate why it amused me, and I was depending on his brainy, too many big words, references to people who died 30 years before he was born.
Where the hell does he come up with this stuff? God.
I don't know. He's like, I don't know.
It's like he's looking at history or something.
I like history, just not political history, because I hate politics.
He's trying too hard.
He pulls it off relatively well, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, he's great, but he's just much.
We should just talk about him behind his back.
He's into this whole thing, so he needs to quit being so smart.
He should have a blog I can pronounce.
He's embarrassing you, Lucy.
Anyway, to hell with Jordan Bloom. He's lovely. I didn't pick a solid topic of things that are fun, so Joe, I don't know. What do you think? You're my co-host. Prop me up here. Should we move on to things that we enjoy in the past week or so that are not related to politics at all? Are we ready for that?
I think that's a wise decision, leader.
No, I don't demand subservience. I just be helpful. Be my Andy Levy.
Yes,
no, you're the fire guy. You're the hot chick now who replaced the liberal. And Michelle is supposed to be Andy Levy. That was the rules we set in.
Okay, fine.
So you're the hot chick, Joe. So
yeah.
I'm not sure what that means for you exactly. I'll get back to you on that one. We'll tweak this.
Okay.
All right. Michelle, you haven't... Yeah, you need to yell more. You need to interrupt us more.
I know. I've... Speaking of things that aren't politics but sort of are, I jumped on the Peter Thiel 0 to 1 hype train. I read that book and I've been enjoying it, or I enjoyed reading the book, basically all about technological stagnation, and he obviously rips into college and just how terrible it is and how we should go out and do not college instead. I don't know, you want me to talk about things I've been enjoying? Hockey, Peter Thiel, non-political stuff. I've really been out of the loop. I love how everyone just kind of stopped talking about the scary border children that were going to take over America.
God bless the media.
Yeah.
There's just always something new to be terrified about, isn't there?
Grudge got tired of that horse. Moved on.
I wanted some cute toddlers. I'm disappointed.
Well, they're the Ebola toddlers now, I guess.
Yeah.
Now it's the ISIS fighters.
ISIS with Ebola, bringing it in with them.
Who left the West, went and picked up Ebola and radicalism, and then came back and are going to sneak through the Mexican border.
Ebola suicide bombers, that's what's coming.
Ooh, yeah. That's my new really bad imaginary band, I guess, whose topicalness will wane by the time it gets our first album together. How is Peter Thiel, anyway? Because I feel like his associations with the CIA kind of bum me out sometimes.
I know.
I wish I could embrace him fully, and I cannot.
I know. I mean, that book is awesome. But yeah, he defends Palantir by saying essentially that He'd rather be working. He trusts himself, obviously. He trusts the people he employs. So he'd rather have that relationship with the government instead of having the government have that relationship with someone less, less dealish.
I don't know, dude.
Yeah, he would love. I guess he views himself as a martyr, where he, says, I want to be the one handing over this information to the government to prevent another 9/11. But really, it's not a good excuse.
Yeah.
I don't know. I still don't know how I feel about it. But his book is awesome and has nothing to do with Palantir, really, or indirectly.
Okay. Well, that's good.
And it's a Lord of the Rings reference, so that's cool.
That's good. That's never been cool, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Oh man, good stuff. So that and hockey, right? That's your life?
Yeah, and not being an intern.
Not being an intern.
Yeah.
Joe, what have you been enjoying in the past week or so of your life?
Well, since our last podcast, which was like 5 months ago or whatever it was.
Shut up! I'm hoping they won't notice.
Doing a lot of video games. I got obsessed with Destiny, even though it's not great. I can't stop playing it. It's taking my life and preventing me from doing anything productive with the Stag blog or anything else. Other than that, my band recorded a video on top of the Steel Tower, which is the tallest building in Pittsburgh, and it's gonna be pretty cool. And we have an album coming out and a CD release party in 2 weeks and a day.
You can put this shit on. We have a blog for this, Joe.
I know.
Is my rambling about Charlie Parr and nuclear apocalypse any more relevant to libertarianism than your band? Is it?
Like I said, I've been playing a lot of video games and I don't have time. All right, I'm a level 24 Titan. And I gotta save the galaxy.
This is why I don't understand video games, because I just can't spend that much time on wasting my time on one thing. I have to waste my time on many, many small things. So I don't even have
more focused than you are, Lucy. All right.
On your time wasting.
Yes.
Indeed. What have I been enjoying? Okay. Well, I've been enjoying this shirt because it's beautiful. It's like a space alien, and he's eating cotton candy out of the Capitol building, and like the military is assaulting him, and he's really just cheerfully indifferent to it. And it's really just like a fundamental summation of all that I believe in this world. So I really like my new shirt. Let's see. I read some books so that I could restart my brain. I read Gone Girl, which was actually pretty damn good, and I'm pretty picky about fiction. And I started reading
as well.
Yeah, is it?
Yep.
I usually am not disappointed. I'm usually disappointed by anything that's like a mystery, even like Philip Marlowe and like The Thin Man, really classic stuff. It's usually more about like the journey. But I was satisfied with like the depressing bleakness and slightly unrealisticness of Gone Girl, so that was fun. And I started reading a short story compilation called The End Is Nigh, which has many fun stories about like the brink of the end of the world, and I'll probably describe that on the Stag blog soon. So the usual things that I enjoy, end of the world mostly. Todd, share with the class, what do you like lately that is not related to politics?
Let's see. A strange New York performance artist named Reverend Jen
stop it.
loaned me a biography of Fellini, which turned out to be a lot of fun. And Fellini seems like a really fun guy, even though he admits he constantly cheated on his wife, which is not cool. But it was sort of refreshing to see that even though he's one of those guys that always gets taught in extremely theoretical film classes, it doesn't sound like he cares about.
Yeah.
It doesn't sound like he cares about any of that. So in the book, he doesn't say anything like, "Oh, I wanted to challenge people's conception of the mise-en-scène by having the dwarf in the first scene." He instead just says stuff like, "Oh, I loved living in Rome, and there was a short little man. I said someday I'll make a movie. I put a short man in my movie."
Oh, that's way better. You're right. Yeah.
He's just seemed like a pretty normal guy who dreamt of running away with the circus when he was a kid, and vowed that when he made movies, he would put lots of strange characters in them. So relatively straightforward, and sounds like he was having a good time. So that's nice. Do we dare even broach the UFO topic, or Is that?
Oh God, dude, so much. Give us
say,
give us a teaser about your love of UFOs, and
well,
then I swear to God, we'll ramble for a solid hour soon.
I have to preface this by saying that my entire adult life I've been both an anarcho-capitalist, I swear, and a hardcore skeptic like Penn and Teller or James Randi. So I don't believe in God, ghosts, psychic powers, fate, horoscopes, werewolves, Bigfoot, Atlantis, any of it, nor alien abductions. However, another book I did read recently was UFOs by Leslie Kean. At the urging of some friends of mine who are fairly intelligent, kept saying, I'm telling you, there's more there than you think there is. And to my surprise, although none of the like crazy abduction stories or any of the really wild things seem to have any evidence for them, there have been so many odd lights in the sky, sometimes in geometric patterns, that apparently virtually every major government on Earth has at some point had their Air Force or military investigate them. And basically they all came to the conclusion that they're real. There are lights flying around that buzz our airplanes and our military bases. We don't know what they are. They move faster than any of our planes do, and that's all we know. And we have nothing else to say about it, and there's not really anything we can do. And I always used to think as a skeptic, like, oh, I don't want to hear about any of this nonsense unless there are well-corroborated cases with hundreds of independent witnesses and radar tracks and so forth. And it turns out they exist. It's sort of embarrassing, but they exist. And the only reason the U.S. government, I guess, hasn't been as forthcoming, really, is it is sort of a case of tiny bureaucratic decisions having long-term consequences. Basically, back around the 40s, the U.S. government decided, like, okay, we're going to divide the cases into two types. The ones that are pretty easily debunked because it seems like they could just be seagulls or misperceived meteors or whatever, or military balloons from other militaries. And then in the other category, we'll put the ones that we really can't come up with a good explanation for and that seem fairly well corroborated. And they kind of adopted the schizophrenic policy of constantly talking about the debunkable cases while pretending the other ones don't exist. But at
thereby
this point,
making conspiracy theorists go insane.
Exactly.
I'm sure. More insane.
Fodder. And occasionally even deploying disinformation agents to spew nonsense about what those cases were. Actually, with the classic example being Roswell, where it appears, it is a matter of historical fact, crazy as it sounds, that the first press release issued by the military itself said, we've captured a crashed alien flying saucer. Now,
but it didn't say alien, did it?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know if they used the word alien, but they definitely said
flying saucer.
A flying saucer, and it was at a time when there had been many sightings that people thought were aliens, so they knew exactly how it would be taken.
Right.
Then, I think basically the truth probably is it was a military spy balloon. So at first they thought, like, we'll just let the flying saucer story stand because that'll cover up the military balloon. And then within a day, they decided, oh crap, that's attracting entirely too much attention, so we need to put out another cover story, which was the mere weather balloon. Everybody in the town, I didn't realize this until recently, Roswell is filled with military people, so they all knew that's no weather balloon. So then for 70 years, you've got people saying, like, this cover story is bullshit. But the truth at the bottom of it all is probably just a military balloon rather than the flying saucer. But the communications officer who put out the initial press release saying it's an alien ship believed until his dying day it was an alien ship. And the whole town, including all these military people, was filled during the period this was going on with rumors that it actually was an alien ship and that the military was hiding bodies. So you kind of can't blame people in the town for the fact that to this day, some of them still say, oh yeah, it was a cover-up, but they're going to bump us off if we talk about it, so like keep your mouth shut. And I know a guy whose family grew up there, and he said that like they all assume it's aliens, basically. They all believe that.
So there's something mysterious in the sky. That is, you're putting yourself down on for something mysterious.
That one may have just been, it may just be blimps. In fact, interestingly,
blimps don't go that quickly though.
Yeah. Well, many of them might be blimps, and then some of them are genuinely mysterious. Like, I wouldn't be shocked at this point if we someday find out nothing has visited us from other planets, but ball lightning can become as smart as an amoeba, and like, you know, maybe they can buzz airplanes or something. I don't know. I suspect there's something weird we're missing that explains some of these cases anyway. And, you know, it'd just be intellectually dishonest of me not to admit that I'm a little freaked out by some of this information because I know, I could much more easily maintain my decades-long skeptical cred by dismissing it all, but I don't know. I think there's something weird there.
Well, we're going to, in the future, fully destroy your reputation as a skeptic by indulging all of your paranoid 3 a.m. impulses on this subject. We truly are. Now I'm going to wrap it up. Joe, should we promote you in some way?
Promote me?
Promote? You know how this works. It hasn't been that long. God damn it.
All right, go to activepardon.com and check out my band's new stuff and my show.
There you go.
In Pittsburgh.
None of these people are in Pittsburgh. Don't tell them we live in Pittsburgh. It's a secret. They can't know. All right. Yes, activepardon.com. That's good. The Stag blog. I will pretend to be Jordan. You should read Jordan Bloom's writing because it's really good. He's the opinions editor for the Daily Caller, and you should look at his stuff there. And his blog I will link to, and I can't. I'm sorry. I don't remember what word it is. It's French.
Militarus or something.
Yeah.
I think it's mitrailleuse. Militarus would be when the army takes it over and turns it into a blog that Lucy really hates.
That's why I didn't read his piece. I spent like 5 minutes trying to figure out the URL. I'm just like, this is rough. Like, all right. This is enough intellectual stimulation for.
Just reading the URL is enough. You're like, I learned a lot today.
Terrible for SEO.
Michelle, do you have things to promote to the world?
I think I always promote Fee at the end. They're awesome. Check them out. I think they
don't work there anymore.
The Freeman posts awesome articles. Dan Beer, who is a good friend of I think a lot of us, recently wrote an article on kind of cop deaths, and you also write some awesome stuff on cops that everyone should check out. So I'm gonna put you on blast. Yeah.
No. The third tier Radley Volko at this rate, damn it.
Yeah.
Second tier.
So yeah, I promote you, and then Fee, and then people who are awesome. That's it.
Yes, Fee is awesome. Dan Beer is awesome. So many things are awesome. Todd.
Yeah. If everything goes according to plan, I might actually sort of disappear from the internet for a few months so I can work on a couple of ghostwriting book projects, which would be more or less libertarian, but more than that I shouldn't say. And I don't know, whatever else I do, it'll be mentioned on toddcv.com somewhere, often over in the right-hand margin where I list what events I'll be doing. And I'll amongst them will probably be me making occasional on-stage performances here in New York City at these political discussion events called Electoral Dysfunction, where people try to talk about politics while being funny. Not so unlike the video we have just done.
Hooray for us!
Yay!
And we didn't even have to go to New York City, which is a terrible place. Just kidding.
No.
The last 2 trips there were really crappy.
Just because the mayor is a communist doesn't make it unlivable.
There are many problems in New York City, many conflicting feelings. It's like a hot chick who's fun, but I don't know. She's just a little full of herself. Something like that. I just started writing for a weird sort of clickbaity, and it's okay because they admit that website called Politics, spelled with an X. I don't really know what I'm doing there yet, but it's a good exercise in just writing more stuff. And as usual, you can read me at rareandantiwar.com. Screw you, Todd! Just kidding, I like you. Vice and the Stag blog, which all of you in the world should give me guest blogs for so that I don't have to not have posts when I'm lazy and Joe is busy. Where did Joe go? He went away, didn't he?
I don't know. But I have to ditch too, so.
All right. Well, thank you for watching Politics for People Who Create Politics. Bye, Michelle. Bye, Joe. And bye, Todd. And bye, Jordan, you slacker.